This section is about solving just a bunch of very different equations. They all have a different little trick to them. The big idea is that you want to try to get a letter by itself. And so we want to use the distributive property whenever it comes up. Maybe we want to rearrange things. You want to use the addition and subtraction properties of equality, which means we add and subtract something to both sides. You want to be able to multiply and divide both sides by something. Whatever strategies we practice, we're going to use all of them at some point here. So for this first one over here, 21 times y minus 5 equals negative 42. The first step is to multiply 21 to everything inside that parentheses. So 21 times y makes 21y. And then we got 21 times 5, that makes 105. And then we're still trying to get y by itself. So let's add 105 to both sides. So we're left with 21y equals, now that's a negative 42. Make sure you punch a negative in your calculator, plus 105. It should be a positive number because the positive is bigger in this addition subtraction problem. Got 63 here. And then the final step that says 21 times y equals 63. So you got to divide 21 from both sides. So y is going to be 3 when you use a calculator for that part. Okay, for this next one here, first thing I want to use is the distributive property. Anytime you see a number in front of a parentheses, it's a sitting duck. Just use your distributive property to break it down. Okay, next, and note 6 times 5 makes 30. 6 times negative k makes negative 6k. So you got to take that negative sign with it. Next, let's clean things up on the left side. You got negative 6 plus 30. So in your calculator, you should get 24. Getting closer to having k by itself, so let's subtract 24 from both sides, and watch out, a lot of students drop that negative sign. That's still a negative 6k. And over here on the right side, 15 minus 24, negative 9, I think. Negative 9. Last step, divide both sides by negative 6 to get k is going to be 3 over 2 when you simplify. And we could check that. 1.5 in for k. So if we plug 1.5 in for k, 5 minus 1.5 times 6 plus a negative 6, so I'm just going to subtract 6, that makes 15. That's what the right side equals, so it checks out. Same thing here, use the distributive property to start us off. Gives us negative 22, and the negative 2 times negative 7 makes a positive 14. And so when we combine like terms, negative 22 plus 54, those can combine. So if you do a negative plus a positive number, it's like you're doing a subtraction problem because the debt is taking away from the 54 bucks you have in your account. So that should be 32. Just double check. And then trying to get x by itself, you want to subtract 32 from both sides. So you get 14x equals 4 minus 32. That makes negative 28. And now, final step, divide both sides by 14. So x equals negative 2. Alright, let's see what else we can find. So this one, if you multiply by 1/4, that's the same thing as dividing a number by 4. So when you do this multiplication, it's like you're doing 20 divided by 4. It's like you're doing 12 divided by 4. So 20 divided by 4 gives us 5d. 12 divided by 4 gives us 3. And then we have d plus 7. And then finish getting d by itself. It's on both sides of the equation. So we want to subtract d from both sides. So 5d minus 1d makes 4d. Still trying to get d by itself, so let's subtract 3 from both sides. So get 4d equals 4. And if you divide, don't subtract 4 from both sides. It's not 0 for an answer, okay? 4 divided by 4 makes 1 for the letter d. Okay, so this next one here, it's got a lot on the screen right now. Solving this equation, look, there's a minus sign in front of our parentheses. That's usually tricky for students, so watch what we do. That makes a minus m when we break down the parentheses. It makes a plus 1, because a negative 1 means a positive 1. So you have negative 3 plus 1. It's like you were $3 in debt, but you just gained $1, so now you're only $2 in debt. Then we're still trying to get d by itself. So we want to, sorry, not d in this case, m. We want to add 2 to both sides to help us get m by itself. And look, there's still a negative sign. You've got to keep the sign that's to the left of the number. That's negative m equals 15. And then the final step to get m by itself is you want to divide both sides by negative 1. So m is negative 15. This final one is a bit of a doozy. There's a number in front of a parentheses, so we're going to multiply. 3 times a makes 3a. 3 times 2 makes 6. And there's our minus sign in front of a parentheses. We just saw how to handle that. And then 4 times a makes 4a. 4 times negative 1 makes negative 4 here. And so these are already on the same side. You don't have to add a to this 3a, because look, this is the equal sign. So this designates the left half of the equation. So 3a minus a makes 2a. And then you have a negative 6 minus 6. Careful, that's not 0. You owed $6. And notice how, just as a reminder, you read equations left to right, just like we read books. Okay. So it starts on negative 6, and then you take 6 more away from it. You're further in debt. So just careful if you're using a calculator, make sure it's punched in right there. Now we're trying to get a by itself. It's on both sides of the equation. So subtract 2a from both sides. So to do that, we'll make this cancel out. You're left with negative 12 equals 2a minus 4. You want to add 4 to both sides. You owed $12, but you just put $4 on your debt. You're still in debt, but not by as much. And then to finish getting a by itself, got to divide 2 from both sides, because that's 2 times a up there.